Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 82. I'm your host, James Shotwell, and I hope this finds you well. I had a great weekend myself. I was at the inaugural Chicago Open Air Festival at Toyota Park in Bridgeview, Illinois. It was 3 days of loud metal music. I saw Slipknot, I saw Marilyn Manson, I saw Five Finger Death Punch, though I probably won't admit to that in the future. I also saw Killswitch Engage and a whole bunch of other great artists. It was an amazing time, but the really cool thing actually happened this morning, Monday, July 18th, when I was heading back to Minnesota. I was at the airport, O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, and I was walking by myself with my headphones in, listening to the latest episode of WTF with Mark Maron, when I passed these three teenage girls with two very big men in suits standing alongside of them. And it struck me as a little odd at first, but I kept walking, and then I couldn't help giving it a quick double take, and that's when I noticed it was Babymetal. But it wasn't the Babymetal that we always think of. You know, if you remember in episode 72.5, the Babymetal episode, I shared an interview with Babymetal, and I told you in the story beforehand about how the group's identity is very tightly kept. They're always on brand when they do press. They're always wearing Babymetal stuff. They're actually usually in complete stage get-up. If they're not in stage get-up, you cannot take photos of them. They only do Babymetal when they're in Babymetal mode, and the rest of the time their handlers keep them very protected. And that was kind of the case this morning. I mean, these were just three teenage girls that would fit in anywhere in the world, and you would never guess that they were Babymetal. But because I've spent some time face to face with them, it's impossible to forget. So there I was walking through O'Hare, and I turn around, and here are these three girls with matching suitcases. I think one of them was wearing a floor-length skirt. Nothing metal about them, no banties, no nothing. And I realized that at the end of the day, despite the thousands of people who come to see them all over the world and the tens of thousands that see them in their homeland of Japan, this is just three teenage girls. These are just three teenagers exploring the world in a way that most of us will never get a chance to experience. And it gave me this new appreciation for their music, and I just kind of wanted to reiterate how great it is that Babymetal is a thing that exists in this world. So if you haven't listened to episode 72 and a half yet, please go back and check that out. And if you haven't listened to the new Babymetal album, Metal Resistance, definitely check that out. Anyways, let's get to today's show, because it's a good one. My buddy Matt Halpern from the band Periphery is on the show to discuss his group's new record, Periphery III, Select Difficulty, that arrives in stores this Friday, July 22nd. Now, I've had a chance to sit with this album for about 2 months now, and let me tell you, it is fantastic. Whether you're a longtime fan of Periphery or someone who's only kind of wandered into their world of sound through their multiple festival and touring appearances, this is a good album for you. Select Difficulty gives you a little bit of everything Periphery is good at. There are some very quick 3.5-minute bangers, and then there are some 7.5-minute epics that take you on a roller coaster ride of sound that you won't soon forget. I never really had a chance to talk to Periphery, though I've been a longtime supporter of the band. So when Matt was willing to do this conversation with me, I absolutely leapt at it. And we had a really good talk. We talk about the idea behind Periphery's albums. You know, they have this 1, 2, and 3 series going, but they also just did Alpha and Omega, a standalone piece. And we kind of talk about the differences between those two concepts. We talk about the creative process for the band in general. And we talk about how once you've established yourself in the world of metal and you're kind of this band that exists and is able to put albums and tour fairly consistently, where your goals go. You know, I'm always curious when someone reaches a point where they can say that they're stable, whatever that means in the world of music. I always wonder where their goals go next. Is it just a matter of maintaining? Is it a matter of growth? Is it a matter of a personal goals, you know, some plateau or some peak that they hope to reach by themselves for an inside reason? And Matt and I get into that. We get into it really well. And it's a little bit longer than some of the recent episodes. I know there's been a few shorties as of late, but this is a good one. This is a pretty solid, classic Inside Music episode, and I think you're going to love it. Before we get there, I got to tell you a couple of quick things. Number one, this episode is brought to you by Holix, the music industry's leading promotional distribution company. And what that means is that Holix works with record labels, publicists, managers, and independent artists from all over the world to share new and unreleased music without fear of piracy. Should leaks occur, Holix has state-of-the-art technology that can not only track down the people responsible for the leak, but also stop the spread of unwanted files online. For more information on Holix, visit holix.com and you will receive a free 30-day trial. Free! You don't have to do anything. It's worth a try, and with Holix launching a brand new platform later this month, I think you're going to love it. Secondly, follow us on Twitter, @InsideMusicPod. That's @InsideMusicPod. And third, buy the Periphery album. Select Difficulty arrives in stores this Friday, July 22nd, and it is 100% worth your money. Don't just stream it, buy it, okay? I'm going to play my favorite song off the record, well, a little piece of it, and then I'm going to get into the conversation with Matt. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the show.
I'm doing great. Nice day. Just working away on a new project, and just having some fun, man. I like working. I'm a weirdo. I prefer to be working than doing anything else. So that's fun for me.
Are you home right now?
Yeah. We're home. The band actually doesn't head out to do any touring until we do. We're playing at Chicago Open Air Festival in mid-July, and then we're heading out for a full U.S. tour in support of the new record, which comes out obviously at the end of July. We're heading out in August for that. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I saw the open air thing. I think they just released set times for that today when we're talking.
Oh, cool. I haven't checked. I'll have to look at that.
Well, yeah, I actually hadn't even looked to see when you guys play, or else I guess I should have to be like, you play at 3:20 on Friday the 15th.
There we go. Does it say how long our set is?
Every set on that stage is an hour and 20 minutes apart, so probably close to an hour.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I would assume something like that with the changeover. Cool. That's rad.
Good to know. You're nestled between Drowning Pool and Hatebreed.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I love those Hatebreed guys. I don't really know the Drowning Pool guys, but the Hatebreed guys are all sweethearts. So
Drowning Pool just did this show back in February when their album came out. They're really nice guys. I've never actually met them, but they're good to talk to. Conversational.
Cool. Right on. That's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, man. I've spent about 3 weeks now with the new album. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I heard The Price Is Wrong probably the same time everyone did, and then your PR person Monica, she sent over the record, and I was like, oh man, they didn't even scratch the surface of the most interesting parts of this record. I mean, it's a great song, but I was like, oh, there's so much more on this album to love.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I probably shouldn't say this, but my vote was to put out probably another song first, but everybody in the band otherwise kind of likes the idea of hitting everybody in the face with this big, loud, aggressive thing that is The Price Is Wrong. So it definitely served the purpose of stirring the pot, hitting people hard, but it definitely, the album itself is so vast and it's so, spread out in terms of the styles and the feelings that you get from each song that I don't think there is one song that could even kind of set it up perfectly either way. So, so long story short, I acquiesced and said, okay, let's put this one out. We'll put out another one that's a little bit different than that one next, and people will get a nice sort of understanding of the mixtape that is P3.
The mixtape? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, out of curiosity, what song would you have been leaning towards?
I think that if I, had the sole chance to put one of the songs out first, it would either be Flatline, which we actually just released, or it would be Prayer Position. I think both of those are good ones, could have been good ones to hit people with first. And, we're seeing a lot of really cool and supportive feedback from Flatline specifically. A lot of people who sort of had the same sentiment as you did, that they liked The Price Is Wrong, but it definitely didn't encompass the full scale of the Periphery sound, so to speak, are saying that they feel really, really stoked hearing Flatline because it does encompass so much of what we are going for.
Well, I think Flatline's a great choice. Flatline would have been mine, and I'm a big fan of Marigold. That's
cool.
A song I keep coming back to.
Awesome. Well, that one's coming next. So,
all right. Right on. I'm on. We're on the same page.
You are plugged in, my friend.
So when did you guys start working on this record? Because I like probably everyone else did not expect a Periphery album this year.
Right on. So pretty soon after we put Juggernaut out and did some touring on that record, we had a little bit of downtime, and in that downtime, what the guys in the band like to do is write music. So just very casually and sort of just completely without any expectation, some of the guys started demoing some ideas and writing some ideas, and ended up stumbling across a whole bunch of ideas that we actually liked. And long story short, we ended up having 20 or 30 demos almost of just little pieces of riffs or parts of songs that, you know, in this downtime, we looked at each other, we were like, you know what, why don't we make this into a record? We have enough stuff here. We have nothing better that we'd rather do with our time. So, hey, you know, screw it. Let's do it. And that's pretty much what we did. So we demoed everything kind of like mid to end of 2015. And then we slated a whole bunch of time in early 2016 to get in the studio, to actually really arrange and write the songs. You know, we took all the demos that we had, we condensed them down, we cut out the fat that we didn't want to use for the record, and we were able to actually write a total of about 14 songs, which we then narrowed down to 11 songs. And then once we narrowed it down, it was go time. We started actually recording all of the instrumental parts, minus the drums initially. So it's kind of funny. I don't know if you were going to ask about this, but this record we recorded sort of very differently than we ever have done in the past. Usually when a band goes in the studio, you record the drums first and then you put everything on top of it. This time around, we did the drums last. So we programmed the drums initially while the guys were actually recording their final guitar parts, all the ambient parts, all that stuff. And then once everything was done there, we then went and I took all of the final guitar parts and I recorded my drums to those, and Spencer recorded his vocals to those parts. So long story short, to kind of round out the question that you asked, we really started working on it at the end of January. We ended up finishing everything in early to mid-April, and it's now ready to come out in July. So it was a pretty quick process, but I think we were all on the same page, and that made it a very fun process and a very kind of entertaining and enjoyable process for us.
Was it a little bit easier to approach a record like this after coming off Juggernaut, where it was like this big kind of thematic release, and this seems to be not necessarily scattershot, but it is a little bit more of like all the different flavors of Periphery on one record.
Totally. It was, you know, it's great we weren't bound by any sort of story or narrative that goes along with it. And we kind of just said, you know what, we're going to write whatever songs we want. Let's pick the best ones, you know, and best is obviously a relative term. For us, it's let's pick the ones that we as a band like the best, and we're just going to put them on a record. I think we learned so much about each other and so much about how well we work together in the studio. And I say that because we've also obviously have not worked well in the past, but we've learned how to now work really well together in the studio. Juggernaut really was the start of that process for us, and recording Select Difficulty was just, you know, the continuation of such a positive process and a positive working vibe and environment for this new record. So it was really lax. It was really fun, and we were able to work quickly because we were enjoying ourselves.
You know, I find that happens a lot when you work with somebody on a very like complicated or tough project, like what I imagine Juggernaut was, like doing a whole concept story like that. It seems like if you can get over that hill with somebody, everything else is a lot easier because you've kind of been through the ringer.
Yeah, absolutely. We agree.
What's the story behind the title, Select Difficulty? Because I love the fact that there's this air of lightness to things you guys do, but it's so obviously technical in execution that it's always a little fun to me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's totally fun. We actually we had a demo that was called Select Difficulty, and it actually didn't even make it onto this record, which is kind of interesting. We might do something with it in the future. I don't know. But we initially had a couple different names for this record. We were playing around with a bunch of different options. I don't want to say what they are in case we end up using them in the future for other things. But all of these ideas were sort of tongue-in-cheek and fun and relative to what we like to do. Most of the guys in the band are extremely into video games. You know, they play every day. They're big gamers. So we just thought it could be kind of a nice nod to our love for the video gaming industry by calling it Select Difficulty, as you would with a video game when you select the difficulty level. So there's... Unfortunately, I don't have any deep stories or anything super witty or funny to go along with that. But I think, you know, it a name that we all agreed on, that we all were like, you know what, that's really cool. I think our fans will get it. Our fans like video games. We like video games. Let's go for it. And that was it. You know, I think the bigger name or the bigger theme is that we wanted to bring it back to the P3, you know, the chronological order. So, you know, we had P1, P2, we did the Clear EP, and then we did Juggernaut, which was, in our minds, a completely separate thing from the sort of chronological order in which we released albums. So then you had P3, which we knew we wanted to call this record, and then we needed some sort of name for it. One of the names that I hated for it, that I will tell you, that because I hope we don't ever use it, was Tokyo Drift, which, you know, it was like kind of going along with, like, I guess the Fast and the Furious franchise of movies. But I didn't get it. The other guys thought it was hilarious to do that, you know, because it's so tongue in cheek. But I'm really happy that we landed on Select Difficulty. I do really think it's a good name. So I'm happy with it.
I like the idea that Juggernaut is basically a spin-off for you guys. Like, it's the same band, but it's a different, because that's what Tokyo Drift was at first. It was like the Too Fast, Too Furious. And Tokyo Drift was like, this is another story, you know, because, yeah, we'll just tell you something else. It kind of separate.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and so I'm happy you didn't use it for this album, though it would have been humorous. I think Select Difficulty is hilarious because I feel like people are gonna. It's the kind of title where people are gonna infer a lot of things from it, and you can just kick back and be like, "What do you think it means?" and then chuckle to yourselves after the fact.
Totally, we love doing that. I mean, those people who get to hear this interview will obviously know what it's about. But yeah, I mean, we take any opportunity we can to let our fans decide what the meanings are behind the different things that we're doing. You know, even with Juggernaut, I'm not even sure if the full story is out there, you know, publicly. We've really encouraged our fans to sort of listen to the record, read the lyrics, and make your own interpretation of what you think it might be about. So we're all about that.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the decision to bring the Moog synthesizer into the record? I know that was Misha's doing, but like, how did you guys react to it at first?
I loved it. I mean, I think the sounds that you get out of the Moog are great. What I love about the guys in my band is that they're driven to learn new instruments, to learn new skills, to practice doing things, to try new things, to get better at their craft, so to speak. And I think that was just an example of that. You know, Misha has been writing a lot more orchestral music, a lot more electronic music, and you know, it seems like whatever Misha and the guys are listening to when they write a record or whatever they're working on, sort of in an ancillary way, when we write a record, ends up sort of leaking into the album itself. And I think that's just another example of that. You know, Misha had been working on the Moog. He'd been working on a lot of orchestral arrangements and, you know, doing demos for like video games and things like that. And I think it was just a natural inclusion that showed its face on our record. And, you know, I'm really stoked on it. I like the fact that they're progressive, you know, and not just like literally in terms of the genre. I mean, I just mean as people. It's like they welcome the challenge to learn a new instrument and not just like sit in the room and play around with it, but actually like put themselves to the challenge to write something with it and then put it out there for the world to hear. That's, I think, how you really, you know, take big strides with anything new that you're learning, is by experimenting with it in the real world. And I just love that the guys in my band seem to do that naturally. I have a lot of respect for that. So I think that's where that all comes from.
You know, think some of Misa's work in orchestration, the way that Loon comes together, because that big 7-minute closer does kind of go some places that maybe people haven't heard Periphery do in the past.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously that orchestral. There's orchestral parts of that song, but you know, that one was interesting. That one came together really, really organically. There's nothing, you know, because some of the songs on the record, like we maybe pulled from, you know, other demos we had, or even like really old demos that we had, and we kind of built ideas around those. But with Loon, it was fresh out of the box. We sat down at Misha's apartment one night. It was snowing outside, and Jake just set up and started riffing on the intro riff of that song, that picked part, and the guys chimed in with some accents and some ambience, and I was sort of tapping out a beat with it on my legs. Actually, I didn't even have a drum set there, and we ended up sort of just coming up with the movement and the direction for that song just super organically. And then because it is such, in my mind, an epic ending to the record, you know, I encourage, and we all encourage Misha to sort of go all the way with that stuff. You know, the way we look at that is when we demo something, let's pull out all the stops. Let's put every bit of spice, you know, that we can into the song, and then we can always strip it down later. But let's go for stuff. Let's try making new sounds. Let's try throwing in something that we wouldn't normally throw into a song. And I think the result of that really shows itself within Loon, because there's so many, you know, different elements that we maybe haven't used before, in terms of a ballad and in terms of, you know, using that sort of orchestral sound. So I think that's just where it comes from.
Can we talk a little bit about what's going on with Nolly right now? So do you guys have a different bass player for this upcoming tour? Have you settled on that yet?
Sure. So we're not going to be actually bringing in another person at this point. We're just going to be running tracks that Nolly actually records live for us. You know, there's a couple reasons for that. One, you know, Nolly has a very, very specific sound as a bass player. There are very specific tonalities we're going for. There's a very specific feel and approach that we want. So if we can't actually have Nolly with us on tour, then at least we want his sound there with us. And, you know, couple that with the fact that, you know, we really feel that as a band over the past bunch of years, we have spent a lot of time really working on our relationships and the overall relationship as a group. And I feel really proud of the fact that I can say that we have hit a point where it's truly harmonious. And I don't want it to sound cheesy, but we all have finally learned how to work together, how to live together, how to communicate with each other, how to respect each other's space, but also give each other, you know, support where need be. And we feel like throwing somebody else into the mix at this point would just sort of be, you know, some steps back from that direction that we've been going. So, you know, we feel like our fans will understand what's going on. We feel like that we're very confident in being able to put on a great show still, you know, even without Nolly there. As much as he adds to it, we feel like we can still deliver. And, you know, we're confident that the fans will still be able to interact with and communicate with Nolly and still hear his input on our records going forward. So, you know, so that's kind of the deal for our direction live. And, you know, look, I mean, Nolly is an extremely accomplished producer, and he's doing some great things. There's a lot of demand for him right now and for his work, and it's truly his passion. And we respect that. And I think it's, you know, it's something that we've always said as a band. You know, if you're more in love with doing something else other than the band, then that's what we want to support. And as much as Nolly, I think, does love touring and being with us, he loves production. He loves, you know, doing what he does in the studio. That's his true passion. And we want to support that. And thankfully, we're the kind of band that, you know, has sort of agreed to support people in this way. It happens to work, you know, okay, because Nolly is on the bass and the guitar. He's not the vocalist. He's not the drummer. Thank goodness. So, you know, we all agreed to hear him out, and we've all agreed to give him some space and some time to really explore, you know, his number one passion. And, you know, I'm totally okay with that. We, you know, I was just with Nolly recently. He played his last live show with us for a while at Download in London at the Download Festival, which was fantastic. And spirits are high. So what we don't want our fans to get upset or be bummed out or think that we're upset about what's going on. Okay, I mean, obviously, it would be great to always have Nolly with us because he's our brother and we love him to death. But we're really happy for Nolly, and we support everything that he's doing. We still talk every single day. He's still very much involved in all of the band business. He's on every single band call that we have with our manager. So, you know, I'd like to think that if I had something like this, that the guys would be willing to give me the space and the time that I needed to explore my passions, and that goes for everybody in the group. So that's really where this stems from, and you know, we're really thankful that our fans so far seem to be understanding that, and they're willing to go through that with us. So hopefully that clears up any questions about that.
Yeah, it has to feel good. It has to feel good to be, you know, find yourself surrounded by guys like that are willing to work like that with somebody, like you said, so that you feel the freedom that you could, if you needed to or wanted to, kind of explore other things, but not feel like that would jeopardize Periphery or your involvement with Periphery. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It feels great.
I love the idea to just play with tracks that he's recorded. I know a few different bands who have gone through a similar thing, and everyone finds their own way to make it work. And I don't think I've heard a lot of people kind of take this approach. I think that's really cool. Also shows a lot of respect to Nolly to be like, you know, it's not just the fact that you play bass; it's how you play bass.
Absolutely. And look, you know, Nolly will be the first one to say that if there is another person that we feel would be better suitable, you know, to get the sound and the feel that we want, that he's more than happy to step aside and let that happen. But, you know, we want Nolly's sound. That's what we feel like it's such a strong integral part to our makeup as a band sonically that, you know, to be honest, anybody else is going to have a very, very hard time even getting our attention to slightly want to entertain the idea of somebody else coming in. And because of of the nature of the relationship we have with Nolly, you know, that's not something that we're even going to be looking to do, you know, maybe indefinitely. So, yeah, you know, it's definitely the solution that we want to go with. And we actually played our first show without him too recently. It was in Austria. We played at another festival called Nova Rock. And it went great. I mean, it sounded awesome. You know, it was definitely a slight adjustment for me, only, you know, being the only guy now on stage as part of the rhythm section, so to speak. But I'll forgive him for that. And it was great. So we're confident that we can deliver live going forward.
How is the reception to Periphery overseas? Would you say you're as big over there as you are here? Is it a little bigger, a little smaller?
Man, like, you know, people ask me this all the time, and I have to say, like, we're very, very excited and lucky about the fact that it seems to be everywhere we go, we have amazing fans. The reception is great in all the territories we play. The turnouts are great, you know, as far as people showing up. You know, it's pretty even keeled. I gotta say, like, almost everywhere we go, you know, there might be a couple markets that are really, really enthusiastic. You know, we always love playing in London. We always love, like in the U.S., we always love playing in Los Angeles and New York. You know, the major hubs always have, you know, an amazing turnout at all the shows. But really, it's pretty even across the board everywhere we go. And we're grateful to be able to go all these different places and have that kind of reception. It's very, very cool.
You know, there's a lot of bands in your genre that are, you know, kind of struggling to build or even maintain a presence. But I found that Periphery, you guys have these very dedicated fans all over the globe. And, you know, do you think there's something about the way that you approach, you know, interacting with them that kind of helps build that fan base? Like, what do you attribute the dedication your fans have to your music?
That's a great question. I absolutely do think it's all about how we engage and interact. I firmly believe that as a band, as a creative, whatever you're doing creatively with your life, like if you're, you know, let's use the band. If you're a band putting out music, there's so much more to the band than just the music. There's people behind the music. And I think the more authentic and real the people can be, the more people out there are going to relate to them. And I think that we just, even before we ever started touring, you know, all of us have been extremely active with our fans online. We respond to messages, we ask questions, we post in forums, we read blogs. We are just as plugged in and as engaged as they are to what's happening online in our music scene with our interests. We have so many interests between us. Like, obviously, I'm a big drum nerd. I love to teach. I love to educate. So I've always put myself out there beyond the band as a drum teacher. And I've been lucky enough, because of the band, to be able to interact with so many of our fans through drum lessons, and that creates a really strong bond. All the guys in the band have taught lessons before, and have reached out to fans in that same way. Misha is always putting out different demos for different products, different guitars, different virtual instruments. And because of that, he's putting stuff out and looking for real feedback and responding to questions and responding to people that want to interact with him. And everybody in the band does that. We all have our side projects. We all have our side businesses. And none of it are things that we ever feel are above anybody else. We're just trying stuff. And hopefully we can lead by example in that way, to inspire people to go and try to do cool things that they want to do. But to always remain grounded, always communicate with people, always remember that, this day and age, there is no anonymity anymore. Okay. I'm on my Facebook, and you can come talk to me, and you can come ask me a question, and it's not some dude at a desk running my Facebook page for me. That's the same for everybody in the band. We consider this our career. We consider the people that we interact with to be our friends, our fans, our customers. And, with any business, and the band is a business, you want to be engaged on the ground floor. You want to talk to the customers. You want to know their feedback. You want them to get to know you. The more they know you, the more they'll support your projects and your products. The more you know them, the more that you can provide better services for them. And I think that's what we do. Yes, our product at the center of everything is our music, but that music kind of, I think allows us to branch out from there and offer other tools, products, services, information, for our fans in a way that I think every band has access to. Like, you just have to, it starts with the music and connecting with people in an authentic way through the music, but then peel it back even further and connect with the fans based on the things that you love to do on a daily basis as a person. Like, people probably like my band better because they like dogs and they see that I'm such a dog person. That's another connection that they can draw a line from. People probably love that, Nolly is a recording nerd. There are plenty of people out there that record and want to be producers. And when Nolly puts out information or puts out another mix or whatever and talks about it, that's another reason for them to also go like the band. So I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't want to rant on too much here, but I just think it's like, you got to be real with people. No, we're not better than our fans, and our fans aren't better than us. We're all on the same level. We're all trying to do good things with our lives. We happen to have the opportunity to reach more people than some people do. And because of that, we want to try to take advantage of that in a positive way and make sure that we're available for people. Because, if we can inspire other people to do what they want to do through our experience, then I think that, at least for me, is a good thing to do every day.
You think you learned that through, is it just a trial and error thing? You've been at this for so long, you kind of figured out what works for you guys, or did you, do some education on your own part there?
I think we figured this out because our fans tell us how much they appreciate that we are down to earth with them. I literally get 5 emails or messages a day saying nothing but, hey, I just want to thank you for responding to me. I just want to thank you for being down to earth and being different than other bands out there. It's not a competition by any means, but it's working in a way that is organic and it's real. We're not asking for this feedback. We're getting it, and we're super appreciative. And because of that, it feels good on both sides. So if you see that something is working for the people that you're trying to reach and you're getting feedback that's showing that it's working for you, to me, that's all I ever need to learn to continue to do something that's positive. And I think we've all encountered that from day one with this band. And of course, it's been more evident over the years as we've reached out and done more things. But time and time again, day after day, we keep getting positive reinforcement about the way that we are, with our fan base, and it's something that we will absolutely continue to do from here on out. I don't think it'll ever change.
Well, that's awesome, man. Let me ask you this. You guys had a lot of success with the last record. It did so well on Billboard when it came out and stuff. Do you concern yourself with all that? I mean, we're about a month out now, a little under a month out from the album coming out, so reviews and stuff are going to start circulating. Are you someone that stays in touch with all that stuff? Do you follow? Do you care about it?
Like when it comes to like the numbers and how well we're doing and sales first week, I mean, look, it's a lot of fun. It's a game. It's cool to see how you did compared to your last record. I think we all like to compete with ourselves. We don't look at other bands and compete with them by any means. We think that each band is their own thing, and that's cool. But we definitely compete with ourselves in a way, and it's always very fun and tongue in cheek. Look, do we get bogged down with the reviews? To be honest, I hate to say this, but no, because we don't write this music or put this music out for other people in that way. Okay. Now look, let me clarify that. We put our music out for people because we want to share what we do, and we want to hopefully give people a positive experience when they listen to our record. We hope that people enjoy it. We hope that people will see where we're coming from and resonate with that. But we write this music for ourselves. We write the music that we want to hear, that we haven't heard before, because that's what our capabilities are, and that's, as a group, we all kind of have the same musical tastes, and because of that, we come together and we write music that's pleasing for us as individuals. We get a platform to put it out to people, and that's amazing, but I think it would be really dangerous for us or any creative to get bogged down in what people say. It's amazing to hear great reviews, and by all means, it's a nice pat on the back. But it doesn't necessarily influence us to do any one thing. And, the opposite of that is, there's always the negative review. And, no matter who you are, that kind of stuff can sting if you read it, okay? Especially when people are giving a negative review of something that you poured your emotions into, and that it's something that is, it's not a tangible product in certain ways. It's so much feeling, emotion, passion, art. So when someone critiques your art, that can be really, it can be a really hard pill to swallow for some people. So because of that, we don't even really look. We don't read the reviews. We don't pay attention to it, because I think it can be really dangerous. And I see it happen time and time again. I have students that come to me and say, hey, I really want to build my following, but I'm terrified to put a video out there because I think someone's going to call me fat, or someone's going to make fun of my shirt, or tell me that I'm a shitty drummer, or tell me that I'm not doing this right. And, I don't think there's an option here. You have to put yourself out there as a creative if you want to do anything. But the option you do have is to not read the negative feedback. The option you do have is to hit that little button on Facebook that says block user. You do have the option to turn off your notifications. And you do have the option to put your music out there and interact with people in real time. It's great to get constructive feedback. It's great to get constructive criticism. But I think that's something that should be done in real time. When a fan writes me directly and says to me, hey, this is how I feel about this, and I wanted to express this, it's a lot easier for me to be honest with them and say, hey, listen, thank you so much for saying that. Let me explain my side. Let's go back and forth. And it's funny, this actually happened today with me, funny enough, for one of our fans who was commenting on the two new songs that came out. And he wrote me and he said, hey, I want to let you know that I really wanted to like The Price is Wrong, but it's just not my style of music necessarily. I think it's great and it's growing on me, but it didn't give me that effect that I've gotten from other songs you guys have put out. And then he also said that he loves Flatline, but it's still taking some time to sink in, and he hopes that he wasn't disappointed in the rest of the record. And you know what? I can really appreciate that. This fan took enough time to tell me how my music made him feel. And although it's not this like overwhelmingly positive pat on the back of reinforcement, it's real. And we don't want our fans to be a bunch of yes men or yes women just telling us great job and then behind the scenes talking shit. I would rather people come up to us and be honest with us and tell us how they feel in that regard than read a bunch of reviews of shit talking and just, stuff that's there to just rile people up. We really care what our fans think about our music from the standpoint of that we want them to be happy. Is it going to change how we write? Is it going to change what we put on a record? No, because again, we write our music for ourselves, but we do appreciate our fans' feelings. And of course we want them to enjoy it. So the fact that this person came to me today gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, that's awesome for saying this. Hopefully as you keep listening, it grows on you. And you know what, there's 9 more songs that are coming for you to sift through. I'd love your feedback on those. I hope that there's one in there that really jumps out or 2 that really jump out. And, the way that I see it is that by having that open communication, I think that fan is going to listen to the album more intently. I think they're going to listen to it more seriously. They're going to want to enjoy it more. And you know what? If they don't, at least they know that there's an open communication line to me to talk about why they didn't. And I don't know. I mean, hopefully that answers your question. I know it's a long answer.
No,
but,
it did.
But that's how I think we all feel about it.
No, that's great, and I know you got to get going soon, but I'll wrap this up for you real quick. I do really love the album. Is there something that you do hope fans take out of this release? Because I know it is a little bit more all over the place thematically, and we didn't really have time to get into all of that stuff. But is there like one big takeaway you hope people have from Select Difficulty?
Yes, and that is that this is the most current representation and version of who Periphery is today. Okay, we're not trying to be anything else other than ourselves, and we made a gigantic point on this record to write whatever we all collectively wanted to write, and the result of that is Select Difficulty. So this is Periphery. This is where we are now. I can't say what our next release will be like. I can't say what the one beyond that's going to be like, but right now, this is who we are. This is where we stand. We are not our history. We are not our future. We are Select Difficulty. And that's what I want our fans to know about this record.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about all this today. And the album will be out in July. This will be up just beforehand. So when people hear this, July 22nd, cool, they'll be able to go get it.
Awesome.
Or at least pre-order it still. So I hope to see you guys.
Yeah.
Real quick, we should plug. You hit the road at the beginning of August. On the road all month.
Yeah, we head out on August 4th, I think, for about a month. So we'll be out there.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you guys when you roll through Minneapolis that month, and I'll talk to you then.
That's awesome. Yeah, please get in touch with me and let me know when you're coming. It'd be great to say hi in person for sure, man.
Definitely. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it as well.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.